So in this video, I want to share with you how I made $176,887 my first year as a life insurance agent in 2022. Now, I want to give you the no BS, the no fluff. I'm going to break it all down for you too. But before we jump in, I want to give you some real proof and some real evidence before you even continue along in this video. So as you can see here, I submitted over $500,000 worth of final expense premiums my first year as a life insurance agent. You can see here's some breakdowns of individual months of productions. And also you're going to see here, you can see some months I was able to earn over $20,000 of profit per month as a life insurance agent. Now, my first year as a life insurance agent, I did have a part-time income coming in as well. I started off with my selling tree removal, and I was selling tree removal on the side, and then eventually I quit and went full-time in selling life insurance. But ultimately, I want to make this video for all those who are looking to get into life insurance. I want to give you the non-BS, the fluff. Like, there's so much lies out there about the insurance industry. I want to give you guys the seven huge mistakes that cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. And ultimately just give you guys the 7 huge mistakes that I made as a life insurance agent that I wish I never made as a life insurance agent that can hopefully help you make more money and learn more about what this industry is about. So first thing I want to share with you is how I got even stumbled into the life insurance industry. I was driving in my little Suburban at the time, doing high ticket tree removal. And I heard a podcast come on while I was in the car, and it was all about how you can make $400,000 per year selling life insurance. If you're not making $400,000 per year, then you're going to be broke, so start selling life insurance. And I instantly pulled over. I called the insurance company. I signed up, and I got my insurance license. Shortly enough, I was able to start getting some leads. I got signed up. My first few months, I didn't make any sales. It took me 14 days to make my first sales. I had no guidance. I had no direction. But eventually, there was a time in this business when I was pulling over on the side of the road. I was getting leads that were coming in, and I was at the time doing estimations for tree removal, and I would be pulling up to a job site, and I get a lead come in, and I'm like, oh no, I'm going to call that lead, and I would sell the insurance lead. And at that moment, I was like, man, I can work from home. I can make all this money. This dream, I didn't know what I was getting into, and I decided to go full-time in the life insurance industry. So the first thing I want to break down is I knew nothing about this. The first huge mistake that I made as a life insurance agent that cost me thousands of dollars is I didn't research the company that I started with. This was a huge mistake. The company I realized I got into was extremely unethical. I didn't do my due diligence. I was just like probably you, seeing all these companies that make all these promises, how you're going to make all this money. It's going to be like the best thing ever. Just come in, you're going to make $20,000 a month. And I didn't like do any research. I just jumped in. I quit my job. I remember having a conversation with my upline. I was like, hey man, I submitted $5,000 of AP yesterday. He's like, so why are you at your current job? Why don't you do this full time? You're going to make way more. You're going to make $5,000. And I remember I quit my job, and the very next day, all that business that I sold yesterday charged back. And I'll talk about that a little bit here, but he never told me like, hey man, this could be possibly chargebacks. But I quit my job. I had this meeting with my business mentor at the time, and I was like, hey, I'm going to insurance. Peace, best of luck. He said, oh my gosh, why are you doing that? And I had this massive dream, but come to find out, the people that were guiding me didn't have my best interest at heart, and I stumbled upon. And ultimately, too, I found out later when I went to go leave the company that I first started with, that they locked up my contract, so I couldn't even leave. So one of the huge mistakes that I made is that before you start a company or work with a company, make sure you do your due diligence, because contractually you can be obligated, as well as you can get put in really companies that I would never even recommend my brother to work with. I work with in the beginning. Okay. Now, secondly, a huge mistake that I made getting into the insurance industry was I thought this was just a sales job. The way that it was pitched to me is that you just get leads from this lead store, you sit back and you sell life insurance, and that you make all this money. And I think a lot of people are sold that same dream as well. But what I didn't realize is that as you sign up for a traditional life insurance agency, a company where they tell you to recruit, and that you gotta you're actually building a business. You're building a full-on business. And at the time, this was back early in 2022, end of 2021. I was young. I was 21, 20 years old at the time. And I built one business before. I never knew anything about life insurance. And I'm trying to figure out all these things. I was sold that I'm just going to sell life insurance. And then I got to figure out, man, there's a time where I didn't have leads. I got to go buy my leads. And I got to figure out what CRM to use. I got to figure out, man, a customer got mad at me all of a sudden. I got to call them back, and I got to nurture them. And then I get hit with chargebacks, and then I have to be compliant. And soon enough, my first 2 to 3 weeks, I thought I was getting into a sales position, going to make all this money, and I was losing hundreds and hundreds of dollars every single day. Initially, I lost over $20,000 in my first 2 months, which I'll share with you in a bit. But I thought I was just getting into sales. So I didn't have clear expectations of the job. I didn't realize that the traditional models out there, like the MLM models, you're signing up to be a business owner. You're signing up to be someone who is going to build a team, and you just get recruited because they just want you in a seat and they want to make money off of you. And I didn't know that. So definitely a huge mistake is not researching it. And secondly, thinking this was a sales job, because I actually got myself into becoming a business owner and owning a life insurance agency really, really quickly. Now, the third thing that I had to learn on is this huge mistake is I talked about my numbers. Like, I submitted, I think, $500,000 of premiums. I had like a 50% placement rate. I had a terrible, retention rate because I didn't know anything about this. I was told, sign people up for life insurance and you're going to make all this money. Now, fortunately for me, I knew how to sell a ton of life insurance. My ability to sell was the only thing that actually saved me from going completely broke in this insurance industry. I knew I could spend a lot of money on leads, but I also knew I could sell a lot of life insurance. And that's what I did. I didn't realize that there's a thing called bad business. There's a thing called placement rate. There's a thing called like actually keeping clients in the book. And for initially my first 5 months in this business, some months I sold 30,000, some months I sold 50,000. I didn't care about actually writing good business. All was told around me was submit business, just get them approved, and you're going to make all this money. But I didn't realize like you actually have to sell something that people want. So there was many months in this business when I overspent on leads, and then I would sell a life insurance policy. They had bad information, banking information, or they couldn't afford it, but I still sold it to them, or the money didn't come through because they didn't have money in their bank account. I didn't check that, or I was just getting people approved in policies that were not the best for them, and I sunk so much money. It makes me sick to know how much money I actually lost because I wrote bad business, and I had no idea what I was doing. I even wrote card business, which is not like what you want to do. So early on, I had no idea what I'm doing. So if I was a new agent right now, I would really be just cognizant of, man, am I selling good premiums? Am I making sure I'm representing good products? Am I making sure that I'm making sure people can afford the policies? Am I making sure that I'm checking up to make sure that their policies going forward? But for me, as a first-year agent, it was pure chaos. Buy a crap ton of leads. Who cares what sticks? Sell as much business as possible. And if Miss Betty wants to cancel, she can cancel. I'm not going to follow with her because I'm a selling machine. And that sales machine really hurt me. Cost me probably at least $200,000. Again, this is no BS. This is just real stuff that I lost because I didn't know how to sell the right way. And it's because I didn't know. And I don't want you guys to make those mistakes. The fourth core lie that I really learned, or mistake that I made, was just realizing the BS and the lies that I looked at. There are many lies that I were told in the beginning that I look at now, like, why in the world did I believe this? Number one, the first lie was the recruiting lie. Initially, when I first got started, everyone was like, recruit, and that's all I did. It cost me a lot of money because I would spend money on leads, and then I'd have a 2-hour window of trying to call people to recruit, and eventually I was like, why am I doing that? And that's what it was told. It's like, if you want to make all this money, if you want to build well, if you want to make all this money, then go out there and recruit people. Meanwhile, I didn't feel comfortable doing it, but I was continuing to be pushed. But I believed the lie that in order to make money, I must recruit. That it's not a sales problem. It's not a business problem. It's not a placement problem. It's not a lead problem. It's not my ability to actually do well. The reason I'm not making money is because I'm not recruiting enough. And that's just an MLM model of what they want you to believe. Second thing that I believe is like this fake income. Like, even myself, I talk about this in other videos. It's like they want you to believe that you're making like a ton of money. Like, yeah, I probably had month $30,000-$40,000 come to my bank account. Like, it was crazy. But I also had another $20,000 or $30,000 in chargebacks, lead costs come out as well. So on paper, I'm looking like I'm doing I'm looking like I'm doing $40,000 a month. It looks like I'm making all this money, but I really wasn't. And I remember that anxiety, the fear that I had. And finally, I can share with you guys this, and I've shared with in other videos, like, there's this fake persona about how much money people make in the insurance industry. The story that comes up to my mind is there was a guy that did $100,000, and I remember my friend went up to him and said, hey, let me see your bank account. He had like less than $3,000 in his bank account, but he's on the stages. He's talking about how he make all this money, and I fell into the lie, and that was even me for a second. And until I started being true with myself, and I started questioning it, and the minute that I started questioning it to the uplines and people who recruited me, they're like, you need to be quiet. I was shunned. I even was told to be like cease and desist. It was the craziest story ever. And the last lie that I was really told was that they have your best interests at heart. Okay, this story really comes to my mind. I remember it was like 1 month in. I had no idea what I was doing. I was losing a ton of money, and there was just like this big call that they do like at the beginning of the month, at the end of the month, and it was a Zoom with like 400 agents. And I finally had the answer. I had the ability to ask a question to the guy who was like the leader, the guy that was like the top dog, who got this massive like payout. And he was he was like the guy to speak to. And I just asked him, I said, hey, you're making me buy leads from this place. Let me ask you this. If you had to feed your wife, because he was with his spouse at the time, he said, I asked him this point blank in front of all these people. I was like, if you had to feed your family off these leads that I'm buying right now that you tell us that we have to buy, and you need to sell life insurance to feed your family, would you do it? And he straight up said yes. These were like old homeless people leads. And I realized, oh no. Now looking back, the leads that they wanted me to buy were the worst leads possible. But the reason that they wanted me to do that is because there was a kickback involved. And when I have that feeling, I remember just being, it was like a hot summer, and I was on the deck and I was all worried. I had my shoes off and I was just like, man, I'm just scared. And I asked him this question and he gave me the most, at the time I was like, man, am I just tripping? Like, but meanwhile, come to find out, like, knowing what I know now, just complete lied in front of 400 people, in front of your wife, just to make more money. It was so sickening. So I didn't want to believe the lies that I was first told. Now, fifth mistake, huge mistake that I made is I had no mentor. This was huge. I mean, I wish I would have had someone I kind of lean to. I mean, when it came down to trying to figure out how to generate leads, I had no one to turn to. I spent money on courses, I spent money on trainings, I spent money whatever I could because I had no one to help me. When it came down to should I sell whole life, should I go into IUL, should I go into final expense, I had no one that could be like, hey, like you're making money doing this. Can I just do what you're doing? No mentorship. When I needed someone to help me with certain problems, I had no one. And a huge mistake that I made that would have cost me, that would save me thousands and thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars, I promise you this, is just having a mentor who had my best interest at heart that could help me identify the roadblocks that I haven't seen yet that were coming up that I was going to go run into. And this was simple things like recruiting too much, or why are you doing customer service work at 12 to 2 o'clock when you could be calling? Why don't you hire a little assistants? When you're getting chargebacks, why don't you add in certain drip texts? Like all the little small things that I could have solved that could have saved me money. I didn't have a mentor coming in, which prevented me from making way more money as an agent. Okay. Now, the sixth mistake that I really made is that I overspent on leads, marketing, and I took way too long to figure out systems. I used to pour thousands of dollars a day into leads. Like I remember I spent $6,000 some on a course to generate leads, and it was the worst thing ever. And when I was first using a lead vendor, I don't want to shout the lead vendor because I don't use them anymore, but I was spending about $400 or $500 per day, Monday through Sunday, just to generate leads. And I realized one of the most turnkey moments in my business is when I met my business partner, but also met another guy who could actually help me generate leads at a discount, which allowed me to have higher quality leads that I can control my lead flow. I can still sell them and I can make more money. So just not having the systems built in, like a good CRM that I could rely on, like a good lead flow machine that I could just turn on and turn off, a good sales script that was nailed down in the beginning. I didn't have that. I didn't have the right resources to actually nurture my leads effectively or follow up my leads, or a system to people that did cancel, follow up with them. So I had no systemization. I was just kind of just winging it, going after it. I was a selling machine, but so much business, so much fell through the cracks, and I had myself spread so thin. I didn't know how to generate leads. I didn't know how to build a profitable business. I didn't know how to, manage chargebacks. I didn't know how to systematize lead flow. I didn't know how to systematize a CRM. So I was paying for all these different services, and because I knew nothing, and the only skill that I had that brought to the table was sales, and I was able to sell a ton. Premium, you guys seen it in the numbers, but I wasn't able to actually build a profitable business. I think if I would have restarted, because I had a hot lead vendor, man, it was hot. I was closing 3-4 deals every single day, selling the wrong way, but knowing what I could have done now, I could have tripled my profits, quadrupled, 10x probably my profits, and it would have been insane. But I didn't know what I was doing because I had no systems in place, and I was going off bad information, just buying my problems. Okay, last thing I want to share with you, huge mistake that I made, probably why I didn't make as much money as I wanted to make. This is the amount of money I actually paid taxes on, was chargebacks, okay? This was a huge mistake. I didn't think it was a big deal, but I remember that day, that story I told you earlier when I sold the $5,000 AP. It was a his and hers policy. I come into my brother's room, I'm like, hey, bro, I'm about to change your life. Quit my job, and the next day I open up my laptop, this company with an A, chargebacks, all the money back. And that was a gut-wrenching feeling. And from that day, for the first 3 to 5 months, every single day, $1,000 chargeback, $1,000 chargeback, $1,000 chargeback, $1,000 chargeback. And I didn't know this. I didn't know that you have to keep people in the books for 9 or 12 months before you owe the money back for the insurance company. And early on, my mentors would never tell me about this, but the huge mistake is I didn't focus on mitigating those chargebacks, like calling the clients, keeping them on the books, figuring out how to sell them a lower premium policy so they're not going to cancel, making sure that they have the money in their account, making sure that they have an actual routing an account, not just getting approved and just pushing them through. Chargebacks were a huge killer in my business that cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars, actually. That prevented me from actually making real money in my business. And I wish I did this business the right way. I would have made way more money. And most importantly, I didn't know anything about them. So that is the real story of how I got to the place my first year earning 6 figures. Actually, not like, how to make 6 figures. Like, if you want real proof, I can give it to you. But real how it went down. I'm not here to sell you a course. I have nothing to sell you. I want to give you guys some real truth and evidence about what this business is about. I'm tired of people being lied to about, how to start in this industry, how they make $900,000 their first month. It's all lies. And it's lies for you to be manipulated to make them a bit of money, and then you fail out, and I don't want that. I love you guys. Hope this video helps give you some context of what it's like being a life insurance agent.